How can my child get more attention and get more scouts interested in them? Now, if you're a parent who has a high school player and you are interested in, getting your child more exposure, please watch this video all the way through. I think what I share in this video, it's not the normal advice that you would get if you search on YouTube. And I think what I share too are 3 things that are pretty uncommon that a lot of parents avoid and a lot of athletes avoid. All right. And here's what it is. All right. Number 1, I'm just going to get straight into it. You shouldn't be asking yourself, how can my child get more attention? How can they get more exposure? What you should be asking yourself is, what does my child need to learn to get more exposure? Because those 2 very different types of questions there. One is, how can we get more exposure? The second is, how can my child take more responsibility to learn and figure out the tools necessary to get a scholarship? And I have seen this happen like clockwork over the past couple of years. Players who say they want to go play in college, but it's really their parents wanting them to go play in college, those kids never get scholarships. Never. And it's because what they do is they rely on their parents to do everything. And getting a scholarship is a job, right? That is a job. Like, getting recruited is a job. It is hard. You have to learn how to market yourself. You have to learn how to communicate with coaches. You have to learn how to research and there are a lot of moving pieces involved with recruiting. But you should be asking, how can my athlete, right? What do they need to learn in order to get recruited? And this is the thing. A lot of kids need help with recruiting. They need their parents to help them. And I completely understand that. But if they don't take the self-responsibility, then their window of opportunity as far as getting recruited is very, very small. If the player takes full responsibility, they can start that process when they're a freshman or sophomore, and they can have hundreds of schools interested in them if they grab the bull by the horns. All right, that's on the player. All right, and at this point, I've worked with enough players who take that responsibility on, and they learn what they need to do as an individual to get the college's attention. Right? That's the first thing I want to cover. It can't just be the parent's job. Like, yes, you need to be supportive. Yes, you need to be in the process. But the player, the athlete, has to be very hungry to go get it. Now, that's the first thing. The second, this is more tactical, right? When your child is going through the recruiting process, right, they need to be very open-minded about all of the potential schools that they could go to, right? And not just hone in on, like, because this is very popular. A lot of girls that I've worked with, they're like, yeah, I want to go to Texas A&M. And it's very unrealistic to get recruited by Texas A&M unless you're already on their radar, right? And it's like that with a lot of major D1 schools. Like, those coaches start recruiting when kids are 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Like, they already have in their mind who's on their radar very early on. They're already like, that's how it works, right? So if your child limits themselves to, oh, I just want to play at this school or that school, that will kill their chances of getting recruited, because you're putting all of your eggs in that case, 2 baskets. And if those schools are already heavily recruiting kids that are younger and they don't know who you are, it's very hard to get their attention, all right? Which is why if you open yourself up to more opportunities, it's a numbers game. You can have way more schools interested if you have a larger contact list, right? And this kind of goes with the second step. And this is something I train all the kids that I've worked with that have gotten scholarships. They create a spreadsheet, and it's a contact list. And this is where the player does all the research. They will research every conference in D1, D2, D3. They'll research what the majors are being offered at those schools. They'll do a lot of deep, and I'm not going to get into all the details here, but they're going to do a lot of deep research on the potential schools that they can go to, not just their dream schools, right? So you need to open it up to multiple schools. And I know most parents and most players don't even know this, but there are hundreds of schools out there in men's and in women's programs like that your child could go to, right? They could qualify to go to. They could qualify to get scholarships at, right? Very important to actually look at the data though, right? And do the research. Again, something your child needs to do. It's not your homework assignment as a parent to do all the legwork and then just give, a nice easy layup for your child. No, they need to be on their game, right? And the third thing, and I think this is really hard for high school players, is they need to learn how to properly communicate with college coaches, right? And in my mind, this is just a very simple strategy, but if your child is at the age where they can reach out to college coaches, right? Sending one email is not going to do anything. That college coach that day probably got 100 other emails from 100 other prospects. So sending one email and just like waiting, not going to work. All right. And what it is, it's an attention game. Whoever gets the most attention, all right, will get the most scholarship offers. So this is why I always train all the kids that I work with. When they try to get someone's attention, right, they're not going to just like come in with this vanilla email, or they're not going to show up to the call really nervous with the coach and not be prepared with questions. They're not going to be intimidated by these colleges coaches. They're going to go into a conversation very confident. All right. So learning how to properly communicate is very key. And this is why a lot of players struggle with it, because they just try to get their parents to do everything. Right. And I'll kind of end on this note. The college coach is not recruiting the parent. The college coach is recruiting the player. And college coaches can easily sniff out, especially now, like, is this player prepared on this call? Does this player even know anything about, the college coach or the school? And they can sense how serious someone is within 30 seconds, right? And the last kind of bonus tip that I would say here is your child, again, and I said this earlier, but your child needs to approach it like a job, and they need to approach it like a professional. Because the way your child sticks out in recruiting is they show up. They act like they want to be there. They're organized. They're on their game. And that piece, like that recruiting piece of just being committed, being organized, all the things, being a good communicator, those things are so important. And then on top of that, they have to perform well under pressure, like in the actual showcases or the games. That to me is a completely different thing though. All right. Marketing, understanding communication, all those things are so important. And it should be, like I said at the beginning, it should be a question of what does my child need to learn in order to get recruited? Not what do I need to do as a parent? It's what does my child need to do? Now, if you're watching this video, right, and you have questions for me about the recruiting process and you know that your child needs help, I'm more than happy to get on a call with you, answer some questions, and try to give you some good advice and some good pointers on how to be even more prepared with this process. But at this point, I've seen thousands of emails from parents, and it's a shame because there's a lot of kids that miss out on getting scholarships because they don't do a lot of what I said in this video, right? So that's it. Hopefully this helps. If this is the first time watching one of my videos, make sure hit the subscribe button, share this video with another parent if you think it would benefit them. That's it, and I'll catch you later.